A central bank will be liquidated and the Argentine peso will cease to exist. It will become legal to make transactions and denominate contracts in the money of anyone's choosing. Monday, August 14th, 2023, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. We're going to look at a man who actually wants to abolish the central bank. Yes. Is that man important? Well, in Argentina he is. He just won the presidential primary there, and it's big news. He's an anarcho-capitalist, or he's a proponent of the Austrian School of Economics, which I have been a proponent of. And of course, the mainstream media is reporting this very differently. They're saying he's an extremist, right-wing radical. But why is this important? Well, it's not just important for Argentina, but I think for the whole world, because Argentina, of course, has been down the path of big government inflation, for the last 70 years. Believe it or not, Argentina was one of the richest countries in the world in the beginning of the 20th century. And there is even a saying in France back in that era, in the early 1900s, that if they saw someone spending a lot of money and being lavish and looking very wealthy, the saying was that the person was riche comme Argentin, or as rich as an Argentine. So Argentina, like Venezuela is doing now, has economically gone down the drain, unfortunately, in the last 100 years. And I'm not surprised that someone has popped out that wants to change everything from the status quo, because things just keep getting worse there. So that's what we're going to look at today. So yeah, Rudy is back. He wasn't on the live stream yesterday. He's asleep there on the sofa, as you can see. So let's look at what the FT is reporting. So as I said, though, it's not just important for Argentina. I think it's for the whole world, because I think in the West, here in the UK, in the US, and in Europe, we're going down the path of Argentina back in the 50s. Big government, deficit spending, inflation, and more, and always having government solve all the problems. So I think this is why this is important. This guy could be an example for people here in the West, even though I would say Argentina is quite European. But and I'm sure the mainstream media is going to portray him as a radical and going to try to denigrate him, I would say. So here's the FT, as I said earlier, and this has come out this morning. Argentina radical right-winger shakes up presidential race with primary win. Libertarian Javier Milei taps into voter frustration at chronic economic dysfunction. Yeah, Argentina basically, what we're experiencing here in the UK or in the US with inflation in the last 2 years, they've experienced it for over 50 years. So it's not surprising. They're frustrated. What does it say here? I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to put a link to this article in the description under archive.ph so you can read it for free. Argentina's upcoming presidential election has been plunged into uncertainty after outsider candidate Javier Milei, a radical libertarian economist, came first in a primary poll on Sunday, indicating a strong shift to the right in the South American country. Milei, a former television personality and one-term congressional representative who has called for extreme austerity. Well, extreme austerity in this book is dismantling big government and dollarizing Argentina's economy. Well, before Brent Johnson from Dollar Milkshake comes out and says, oh, the BRICS are finished. Argentina's going to dollarize its economy. Well, we're going to come to what Mr. Milei really wants to do, because the FT hasn't really looked deeply into what he wants to do, as usual. Well, he won 30.1% of the vote, surpassing pollsters' average forecast of 20%, with 96% of votes counted. That put his Freedom Advances Party ahead of center-right force Together for Change with 28.3%. And the ruling populist coalition, Union for the Homeland, whose candidate is centrist economy minister Sergio Massa, earned 27.2%. So he wiped the floor with everyone. This is what he said here, Milei. We will put an end to Kirchnerism and the parasitic, thieving political class that is sinking this country. Sounds familiar? It's not just in Argentina, right? Milei said, referencing a leftist populist strain with Union for the Homeland that is influenced by former President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner. So I think the the main election will be in October. There's 2 rounds. If the winner doesn't get more than 50%, there's a second round. So it says here at the end as well, in an interview with the Financial Times this month, Milei said that if elected, he would overshoot all targets in the IMF deal, calling the fund's spending cuts tiny compared with the country's needs. So let's look at an article from the Mises Institute, and this was from I think July last year. I think someone sent this to me, so that's why I'm familiar with this guy. But I didn't even realize they were having presidential primary elections in Argentina. But anyway, there's a picture of him here, and it says behind him, World Economic Forum. So is he a Davos man? I've looked further into it, and that picture is actually from, as you can see here, from Flickr. It's from 2014, April 2014, and he's at a conference held by the World Economic Forum on Latin America in Panama City, 2014. So it doesn't really mean he's a World Economic Forum guy. So this is almost 10 years ago. And when I go through this article here in the Mises website, you will see why I think you shouldn't really be concerned the fact that he went to the World Economic Forum. So let's go through the part that makes me think that. It says, out of this situation emerges Javier Milei. Born in 1970, he decided he wanted to be an economist at 12 as he experienced hyperinflation. Around 2014, that's when that picture was taken, he became an Austrian almost overnight after reading Murray Rothbard's monograph on monopoly theory, which prompted him to read everything that he could get his hands on by Rothbard, Ludwig von Mises, and other Austrians. From 2014 to 2021, Milei appeared regularly on television as an economist defending libertarian ideas at a time when calling someone libertarian was seen as an insult in Argentina. So this article says, as well, talks about Argentina. It says, Argentina has provided the prime example of counterproductive policy for most of the past century. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Now it is one of the poorest. More taxation, regulation, and inflation than most other countries experienced have eaten up large part of the capital that was generated during the era of Argentine capitalism of yore. Though the administration that ruled before the present was indeed inclined toward the right, its era ended in disappointment as the necessary market reforms were not achieved because the coalition included socialist groups. So, yeah, it's not going to be easy, and it doesn't mean to say just because he's read Rothbard, he believes in it, and he's going to come out and give his policies that it will be implemented. You never know, but it's an encouraging move, I would say. Again, I'm not going to read this whole article. I don't want to be talking to you forever. I'm going to put it in the description as well, and you can read the whole thing. But the most important part for me is this one here, and this is part of his reforms. He's got Milei is being very transparent about his reform plans, which appears to be very prudent and can expect to obtain broad support. So there's a first generation of reforms, fiscal reforms, and monetary reforms. And this is the interesting part here. And this is why when the FT says he wants to dollarize the economy, it's not really necessarily that. So I've highlighted it here. It says the monetary reform will take the financial system from fractional reserves to a clear separation between demand deposits, which will have to be on full reserve, and investment banking, which will include time deposits and other products. Well, that sounds like what Rothbard talks in this book. I bet you this guy's read this book. Effectively making the system immune to bank runs. It will also eliminate regulations and increase competition. Central bank will be liquidated, and the Argentine peso will cease to exist. It will become legal to make transactions and denominate contracts in the money of anyone's choosing. So basically, he's saying there's not going to be legal tender laws. And that's what I've been saying forever. You have to abolish the central bank and abolish legal tender laws and allow people to transact in any kind of money they want. It could be dollars in the beginning because the dollar is still holding on to dear life. But I would say it's going to be something different, something that starts, well, that's the 79th element of the periodic table, gold and also silver. And who knows? Crypto, I'm not too sure. But it could be anything. And I think this is encouraging. This is huge. So I'm going to keep an eye on this presidential race in Argentina. And I think, yeah, the main election is not far away. It's in October. And now it looks like he's won big in Argentina. And I'm sure there's going to be a backlash against him, especially from the Western financial Anglo-American empire. Because abolishing the central bank, that's a no-no, right? So with that, let's quickly look at where the markets are this morning. It's 8:30 a.m. London time. We've got spot gold trading at $19.12. Yes, it's down slightly, just under $2. High's been 15, the low's been 10. So fairly quiet action overnight. Spot silver is at $22.64, down about 4 cents. The index futures are not doing much. The Dow futures down 25, NASDAQ 100 is up 10, and the S&P futures virtually unchanged. Currencies as well, they're unchanged from last Friday. Sterling is down slightly, 126.86. The euro is unchanged at 104.44. The dollar is down slightly versus the yen, just below 145. And the yen, I think, made a new low today, and the dollar made a new high, recent high, above 145. And the dollar is up 0.2% versus the yuan at 727.32. And talking about fiat currencies, tomorrow, of course, is the 52nd anniversary of when President Nixon suspended the convertibility of the dollar into gold at $35 an ounce. So the United States Treasury has been in default for almost 52 years. And they owe a lot of countries gold at $35 an ounce because that's what the deal was. And there are a lot of people who say that the BRICS don't have the rule of law and they won't be able to build up a monetary system. But where's the rule of law from the United States? I mean, they've been in default since August 15th, 1971. That's 52 years tomorrow. So, let's look at things objectively, right? So, what about the other currencies? Aussie dollar is down 0.2% at 64.83. The dollar is up 0.1% versus the loonie or the Canadian dollar at 134.60. And the Kiwi dollar is back below 60. It's down 0.2 at 59.74. Let's look at some of the commodities. Well, we got crude oil down almost 1%. WTI is trading just below 82. Brent is down 0.75% at 85.77. Natural gas, U.S. nat gas is up 1% at 285. Platinum is unchanged, trading around 914 or so. And high-grade copper is up 0.33% at 376. Last but not least, the government bond markets, which I spoke about on Saturday, and I recommend you watch that video. I think it's important that you follow what the bond market is doing. I'm going to put it up in the cards if you haven't watched it yet. So right now, the 10-year yield is virtually unchanged from Friday. It's at 4.17, so nothing going on there at the moment. And we've got in the UK, I've noticed bond yields are starting to rise at the longer end, which is worrying, like the 30-year. But the 2-year this morning is up another 4 basis points at 5.05. Yeah, and the 30-year is approaching like 5%. I think last year when we had the crisis back in September, October, we got up to 5.2. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets up to 6% in the next few months. And a lot of the UK debt has duration, very long duration compared to other countries. So the higher the longer end goes, the worse it is for the Treasury. So there you go. With that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day and a very good start to the week. Take care. Bye.